Come on, Bernard. Come on. Ah, success. You're alive. Well, I should say operational. That's the appropriate word for a robot, isn't it? You know, I'm not very skilled in robotics, but I think I've done a pretty good job in getting you working again. Oh, sorry, you must be wondering, why would I even need to do that? What's happened? The last thing you probably remember is that we were on Carvax 5. Well, I'll fill you in, Bernard, but it's not going to be pleasant listening, I can tell you that much. But I need to tell you, and quickly, because things are moving apace, and I've got things to do. But you deserve to know what's been going on, and I'll try and be brief. Well, brief for me, anyway. So, I was fixing a navigational circuit so that I could get a beat-up old Dalek saucer working again and we could make our escape. And then, against all hope and expectation, the sound of TARDIS engines filled that empty hangar. And I was overjoyed. My people had not abandoned me. They'd come to my aid. So I scooped you up and I ran through that derelict space, and there before us that shining capsule appeared. The doors opened and I rushed in, and there it was, all glass and chrome and steel. A TARDIS control room really is a sight to behold. The doors slammed shut behind us, and I gave a great sigh of relief, because in this point in space and time there's nothing, absolutely nothing, that can breach the defences of our TARDIS technology. I thought I was safe. I thought we were safe. How wrong can a person be? But I'm getting ahead of myself. So I moved further into the control room, wanting to find my rescuers and thank them. Then from behind the time rotor, 2 men appeared. But they weren't members of the Celestial Intervention Agency, the group that had employed me for the mission on Carvax 5. No, these were more important people in the hierarchy of Time Lord society. One was a commander in the Chancery Guard. The other, judging by his state robes, was a Castellan. And it was he, the Castellan, who gestured to me to follow. And then he and his subordinate led me from the control room out into a short corridor that lay beyond. The Castellan gestured to his left, and there I saw an open doorway. I peered inside. In there, if you will, he said. So I obliged. Wasn't quite sure what was going on, but I thought, well, it just rescued me. Might as well be compliant. I went in, and it was a small, unremarkable space. There was somewhere to sit, but no other furniture. So I was a bit bemused, and turned round to ask the Castellan what it was all about, to find that the commander was pointing a staser at me. "What's going on?" I asked. And then the Castellan began a series of revelations. I was under arrest for breaking the most sacred law of time, non-interference. I had been an inveterate meddler for many years, they said, and now I was going to pay for my crimes. This work for the CIA was only the last in a long list of offences, but now they'd got me. So I said to them, well, what about Maltravers at the CIA? I mean, he employed me on this mission. How do you know he didn't ask me to do these other things? I could have been working within the constraints of the law, for all you know. He smiled at me condescendingly. "Oh, Doctor, we've been watching you for a while," he said. "All your activities are well documented. There will be a very thorough trial indeed. And just for your information, Maltravers is no longer coordinator of the agency. He has been relieved of duty because, like you, he too is an inveterate meddler." Well, I couldn't believe this information. "But he's a loyal subject of Gallifrey," I said. "You couldn't hope for someone more responsible in charge of the agency." And then I got the second revelation, that apparently the Lord President and the High Council wanted rid of Maltravers and wanted to replace him with someone else, someone more in keeping with their own approach to things. And then they told me who it was. Under Cardinal Pullman. Well, Bernard, let me tell you, that really surprised me. I was flabbergasted. My gast had never been so flabbered. Because Pullman and I were at the Academy together, and you couldn't hope to meet a more unremarkable Time Lord ever. I mean, yes, he could write his name, but he's I don't know, he's a nightmare of a person. Can't believe someone would entrust him with such an important Gallifreyan institution. And then it dawned on me. Pullman is the cousin of the Lord President. This was a political matter, and I was getting embroiled in their dirty bureaucracy. "Just drop me off somewhere," I said. I pretend you never saw me, and I won't speak a word of this. I don't dirty myself in Gallifreyan matters of this kind, I said. But the Castellan and his subordinate are Jobsworths, and they were not going to pass up the opportunity to hand me over. I was quite a prize, they said, and it would look good on their respective records that they had managed to apprehend one of Gallifrey's most wayward children. I suppose I am a little bit unconventional when it comes to Time Lord responsibilities. Anyway, I digress. So the Castellan said that it was standard procedure that I empty my pockets, as I was now a felon waiting trial. So I tried to play for time and said, well, I'm holding this drone, so I'm somewhat encumbered at the present. I can't empty my pockets. So he said to me, that's not a problem. Hand it to me. Oh, and Bernard, that was my mistake. I trusted him. He smiled, he seemed genuine. But it was all an illusion. He took you from my hands and then smashed you to the floor, where you sparked, fizzled, and then your light went out. Well, I was furious. That was my friend, I said, and raised my fist to him. But the commander stepped forward threateningly with his staser, and I knew there was no chance of me making redress for what he'd done to you. So I stepped back, defeated. Well, you're unencumbered now, Doctor. Empty your pockets. So I tried one last delay tactic. Fruitlessly, it turned out. Well, I've got rather a lot of pockets, I said. And they are bigger on the inside, and I've got rather a lot of things, I said. This is your famous wit, is it? Well, I'm not impressed, said the Castellan. If you don't comply immediately, hand me your coat, or the commander will shoot you, and we will say that you resisted arrest. So, reluctantly, I handed him my coat. He upended it, shook it for all it was worth, and all my property fell out onto the floor. Whereupon he fished out the sonic screwdriver, waved it tantalizingly before me, and said, "Well, without this, you're going nowhere. It's the only thing of value in all this junk." "Well, give me back my coat," I said. "I've got to look respectable for my trial, haven't I?" He sneered at me. "If wearing that is respectable, you don't even dress like a Gallifreyan anymore. You're a disgrace, Doctor, an utter disgrace." And he left the room, and before I could come up with some clever retort, he'd shut the door, and I could hear him and his subordinate walking back into the control room. So then I got to work. As I thought, no way am I going to trial. I know how that's going to end. Badly. Probably disintegration. So I used my secret tools. Because I've been deprived of my sonic screwdriver before. The first time it happened, I remember I promised myself I would never get stuck in a situation where I didn't have some sort of rudimentary instruments at my disposal. And so, ever since then, I have kept these in my sock. No one's going to detect them. They're not going to think they're of any particular value, or they're certainly not considered dangerous. But I use them to prize off your casing and fiddle about and get you working again. What I need to do now is take your power cells out, and I really am sorry, but it's the only way. But I want you to record what I'm saying now, so that when I reinstall those power packs and you're rebooted, your memory core will retain this information, and you'll know I had no other choice but to act in this way. I'm going to soup up both your power packs, the primary and the auxiliary. The primary I'm going to use to trip open the door, and then I'm going to run into the control room, and the first of those two Time Lords that I encounter, I'm going to use the auxiliary power cell to zap them, and hopefully it will carry enough charge to knock them out completely. I don't know what I'll do if it doesn't work quite like that. Then, because a charm offensive is not going to work and my personality is not going to win them over, I'm going to have to resort to my fist to deal with the second Time Lord. Then I shall allow the TARDIS to take me through the transduction barrier, and then just before it lands in the Castellan's headquarters, I will divert it to the CIA headquarters, whereupon I will leave it there and we will make our escape in my TARDIS. And then, Bernard, we will travel the stars together. So this is going to hurt, and I apologise, but we need to do this so that we can escape.